Today, I am making my first film in 5 years. Sort of. I've been gone for a while. I'm currently filming and hopefully releasing this video in December when I originally intended for it to come out in August. I shot my first film in 5 years in August of 2025, and I released a few other videos about the process. I was trying to line up the release of the film with this video, but something kind of dramatic happened. My wife was 9 months pregnant back in August, and our baby girl was due on August 30th. Shooting weekend for the 48-hour film project was August 8th through the 10th, which obviously we were pushing a little bit. However, I kept hearing from people over and over and over again that firstborns normally come on time or are a little bit late. Well, not my baby. 48-hour ended on Sunday, August 10th, and my daughter was born on August 13th or the following Wednesday. So I finished my short film on Sunday, and then my daughter was born on Wednesday. Obviously, my wife and I were very shocked, as was everybody else, and a lot of things that I was working on during that time got pushed back. I was trying to get a lot done before that baby came. Like I was on a roll there, but such is life. Stuff happens, and you got to roll with the punches. I obviously decided to focus on being a dad, which has been one of the best things I've ever done in my life. I highly recommend it for anybody who's thinking about it, but I'm very much ready to get back into filmmaking and making videos again. There's going to be sort of a running theme with this video about getting things done no matter the circumstances. I talk about this in a little bit, but one of the big reasons why I decided to do 48 Hour was it just forced me to make a film. And now I'm taking a lot of steps just to force myself to get videos back out again. Force is probably the wrong word, but I want to make sure I'm continuously still doing the things that I love and I'm passionate about. This video, for example, is not going to have a lot of crazy editing. In fact, the editing is probably not going to be very good, but I wanted to get it out, and here I am getting it out. It's funny because I had somebody recommend in my comments that I do more highly produced content because I'm kind of boring to listen to and my videos are kind of boring in general. I want to talk about this more in the future, but this video is a reminder that you should be working at your own pace, and releasing something is better than releasing nothing. At least in my opinion. I'm sure a lot of people would highly disagree with me about that. I didn't have a lot of time to work on videos before, and I certainly don't have a lot of time to work on them now. My wife and I actually created a hierarchy of sort of all the activities that we want to do in our life. And obviously filmmaking / video making is on the bottom of the list. I do make a little money on YouTube, like my channel's monetized, but it's not anything crazy. Like I probably bring in a little over $100 every few months, but it's not anything I can live on or anything that contributes to a significant portion of my income. So at this point, any time that I put into my YouTube channel is more than I honestly can afford. But I love doing it, so it's something that I want to continue doing. I'm here making videos. I got my short film done. That's more than most people can say, and that's kind of the point. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes look at my latest short film. Today is the freaking day that I've been talking about for weeks. I haven't made a film in 5 years, and this weekend we are finally going to change that. It is the 48-hour film project weekend. It is finally upon us. I have about an hour or so before I have to leave for Chicago. We're going to go to kickoff. I'm going to be showing a little bit of that. We're going to get our genre. We're going to get a prop, a line of dialogue, and a character that we have to use in the film. And as soon as that's done, I'm hopping in the car. I'm getting on a call with my producer and my writer, and we're going to start hashing out the script while I'm driving home from Chicago. And then the rest of tonight is just going to be all about pre-production. So that way, tomorrow, Saturday, all we have to focus on is production. In case this is your first video in my short film series, I'm going to be participating in the Chicago 48-hour film project. And this is actually going to be the first film that I have made, worked on, whatever, in the last 5 years. So to explain real quick what the 48-hour film project is, it's a filmmaking competition that happens all in one weekend where you have to write, shoot, and edit a 4 to 7 minute short film all in that weekend. No pre-production, no production, no nothing happening before that weekend. I can get cast and crew together, I can do, get some templates together and all of that, but all of the creative aspects have to happen within that weekend. Now you might be asking yourself, why am I doing this as opposed to, just creating a short film without any boundaries? And that's a valid question. And the big answer is that it forces me to make something. I heard a quote recently that I saw on TikTok. I don't know who said this, but it kind of summed up how I'm feeling recently. And it was something along the lines of, the only difference between a dream and a goal is a deadline. The 48-hour film project gives me a deadline. It's happening on this day, between these days, on this weekend, and you have to create something. Now I know I can bail on that, but I'm not going to do that. Whereas with a normal short film, I have to come up with an idea. I have to like that idea. And, I don't have to go through with it. Like, there's too many what ifs, right? There's too many reasons to just not do it in that situation. And eventually I will, do something like that again. But, for my first film back in the last few years, this just made sense. A lot of my old cast and crew friends wanted to do it when I put out a feeler on Facebook. So the stars just kind of aligned with this project altogether. So I'm waiting on a couple of crew members. They're going to be coming with me to Chicago, Mark and Darren, who are on the team. They wanted to go through this whole experience with kickoff. So I'm just waiting on them and, just trying not to have too much anxiety about the weekend. So let's teleport to Chicago and get into kickoff. All right, we are here. I didn't think we were gonna make it. My God, I ran into the most insane traffic I've ever driven through in Chicago. Took 2.5 hours to get to some place that would normally take me an hour to get to, but we made it. We're rushing. We're about 20 minutes late. Hopefully not a big deal, but I'll meet you guys inside here where we're doing all the kickoff stuff here in a second. We are about to draw our genre, so we're in this big line. My name is Alex. I'm with Team S'mores, and I have dance, film, and sci-fi. I didn't get to shoot as much as I wanted to. Showed up late, sat in traffic for 2.5 hours, like I said, but we got our genre, sci-fi and dance film. We're gonna go with sci-fi. I got some ideas there that I'm excited about. We got our line of dialogue, a prop. It's tape, so that's not too bad. Line of dialogue is why do you ask? And the character's name is Dan, a consultant. So yeah, so we're about to hop in the car, get with the writing team, and we're gonna write this out hopefully pretty quickly. Hopefully by the time I get back to my house, about an hour to get home, we will have at least a first draft or an outline. If we can get an outline hashed out by the time I get home, we'll be way ahead of schedule. I'm not too worried about writing the script once we have the outline. So I will check in with you guys here shortly. I'm gonna have one of the guys that I'm with film some of this so we can have some B-roll. But yeah, excited to get the weekend going. We are driving, I'm driving hands-free. Don't come at me. I have Mark here holding the camera for me, but things are looking good. I'm excited. We have an outline. We have been in the car for for almost an hour now, which I can't freaking believe it's been an hour that we've been in the car. It does not feel like it. We still got about a half hour before we get back to my house, but hopefully by the time we get back, Ben, my screenwriter, will have a draft of the script. We'll still need to fine tune some things, which I don't expect will take very much time. Like there's some, we're doing sci-fi. There's some sci-fi elements that we're going to have to figure out to make sure it makes sense. And, there's a lot of props and all that, like I said, we're going to have to figure out. But yeah, everything's looking good. And I will check in again once we actually get back to the house. It is very, very late. It is 3 o'clock, and that is AM, not PM. So it's been a very long day. I did not shoot any of the freaking pre-production like I wanted to, but my house is just a mess right now. I just try not to get my sleeping wife in the shot there, but she might just have to show up there for a brief second. But feeling pretty good. This is the most preparation I've ever done for one of these shorts. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit of a rough day. Should go pretty smooth. The script's only 4 pages, so it shouldn't be terribly difficult. And honestly, I'd say probably a page and a half of it is not super hard stuff to shoot. There's one big scene in the, well, technically there's 2 big scenes, but there's one big dialogue scene That's going to be, kind of the bulk of the whole thing. So that's going to be a bit of a pain to shoot. But we will check in tomorrow. I'm definitely going to try to shoot a lot more footage tomorrow. Tonight didn't go. Tonight did not go as planned. Showing up till 48-hour late definitely dampened some plans, and just all the driving. Like, I'm just exhausted right now. I got to do this again because I was just yawning, but I'm going to try to be up around 7:30 so I can get started, try to get some stuff set up, but feeling pretty good overall about what we're going to shoot. So I will check in with you all tomorrow. It is Saturday. Shooting day is upon us. It is a little after 9 o'clock a.m. right now. I could not fall asleep last night to save my life. I probably didn't fall asleep till like 4:30. Got up at 7. Very tired, but we're going to get through the day. But I wanted to show you all the setup here so far. So this is going to be our main set. Is this kind of moody? We're going, our genre is sci-fi, so we're kind of just going for this like dimly lit, moody set right here. Let me shut off this light so you can kind of see the, what I'm intending right now. Now this is not enough light. We're gonna have to do some fill. So, I got the Aperture 100D here to, tripping over my lights this morning, to add some fill lights. We're going to be shooting from both angles here, so we're actually going to cheat this a little bit. This table, luckily, is pretty easy to move, so I'll be shooting on both sides of the table here. So yeah, I'm just, like I said, waiting on some crew members. We'll get introduced to them here shortly, and we're going to start shooting short film. I'm going to do a little voiceover as we get things set up. My one rule about this short film is I had to shoot it at my house. I didn't want to overcomplicate the shoot, considering that it was my first film in a long time. I've shot the majority of my 48-hour films in my garage, and this one wasn't any different. Although I did plan on shooting in my back room that you saw earlier. That taught me not to even bother setting things up beforehand, as I wasted a bunch of time doing that for a few days leading up to 48-hour. I also tried to keep the crew relatively small. I obviously had Michaela, my producer, whom you met in other videos. However, she's in New York and not on set here. She did help me a great deal from afar. I acted as my own cinematographer, I set up the lights myself, etc. I did attempt to find someone to help here, but I wasn't successful. Everyone else that you're going to see here on the team, I put in positions that I thought would be the most helpful. All of these people are friends of mine or people who have taken some interest in filmmaking in general. However, no one here on the team necessarily specializes in any position. That's not a knock on anyone, but it's obviously worth noting. In here we have Stephanie, who was the production designer, prop person, makeup artist, whatever you want to call her. I had sort of the basic visual in my head of the TV, the table, and the general mess. The opening shot of this film is kind of the first visual I had in my head and what kicked off the entire idea for the movie. I felt it was the most important aspect of the film to help set up the tone and sell that it's a sci-fi film. Stephanie and the crew did a fantastic job. That TV was my mom's TV she had in her beauty shop for decades, so that was a bit of a full circle moment since her death, and my feelings about it really inspired the script. Everything else was Stephanie's ideas with all the little details. She drew a lot of her own inspiration with personal items that she owned. Although we're setting up in here, we shot all of the scenes with the mom, played by Sarah Dolan, at the park nearby my house first. I wanted to get all of her stuff done as soon as possible so she wasn't waiting around all day for us. We did the scene with the mom first, the opening shot second. Tyler, who is the lead actor, we did his emotional arc and the ending afterwards. The main bulk of the film, which is the conflict between the brothers after that. And then we ended with Jose, who is the second lead in the film. We did his intro scene last. I did that primarily because there wasn't any daylight concerns in the garage. I actually wanted to shoot Jose's opening scene at golden hour, but we ran about 3 hours longer in the garage scenes, so we had to do it at night. I shot this on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 4K, which usually does pretty good at night, but there still needs to be some sort of light so the images aren't super noisy. I did my best not to shoot like the complete dark sky, but as you can see in the movie, it was kind of inevitable in some places. I tried to keep the light setups pretty basic. I had my main light that I showed you in the opening here, but I used a lot of practicals more than anything. Jose's intro, I really just used one battery light that I had, but I used the practicals as the main lights. In the garage scenes, again, we used that primary aperture light, but I did use some fill lights off to the side to make the background look a little more moody. And then I obviously had that practical up on the ceiling pointing down at the table. So that scene in the garage really only had 3 lights. I've taken a strong stance on overlighting instead of underlighting. A lot of my films in the past have been underlit, which has definitely not worked in my favor. You can always make things look a little darker or moodier in post, but it's a lot more difficult to add light in post, especially when you are shooting on a shoestring budget. I personally think this is my best looking film, but you'll have to tell me if you agree or disagree. One thing I really want to do in the future is create a book of shots for how I like to shoot particular scenes. Planning this film was relatively simple. I had an idea of like the main shots, like the opening shot. Like I said, I knew how I wanted to shoot the TV and Tyler's reaction at the end. I had an idea of how I wanted to shoot Jose's opening scene, but the big dialogue scene with the brothers fighting, that was the most difficult just because it was primarily one shot and I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to do the coverage. So I think creating a book of scenes or a lookbook or anything like that of just how I like to shoot particular scenes would have been helpful so I didn't have to spend so much time trying to figure it out. And honestly, all the time that I ended up trying to figure it out was a waste of time because none of the coverage I used worked. I want to say I shot 5 or 6 angles of this scene, but I only used the master shot plus one kind of medium shot of the 2 of them when I needed to make a cut. The rest of the coverage was pretty much useless. It is 10:41 p.m. on Saturday, a 48-hour film project weekend, and I'm happy to announce that production is finally done. It took way longer than I thought it would. I thought I'd be done hours ago, but that's just the way it goes. Ran into a ton of issues. Everything just took twice as long as I thought it would, which was unfortunate because I thought I had a lot of time this morning to prepare for things, but it did not end up working out. Now the fun part begins. We got all the footage, but now we got to put it into a movie and make sure we don't have something, that is not good. So that is where I'm going to be here for the rest of the tonight and tomorrow. The movie is due at 7:30 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, August 10th. So we need to get to work. So I'll catch up with y'all later. Hey, future me here. I did want to comment a little bit on the editing. Some may find this shocking with how little editing that I decide to do in my videos, but I would like to think that my best skill set in my filmmaking toolbox is the editing. I got into filmmaking because of editing. I've made a whole career out of editing, and I've been editing for a long time. However, over the last few years, I have come to admire the simplicity of things and not overly fancy editing. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely a time and a place for fancy editing, but I wanted to keep it simple for this film. Because I kept the coverage simple, I was able to get a rough cut of the film done fairly quickly. And I also tried to do something new here where I followed what I would call a quote-unquote traditional editing flow. In the past, I used to do a lot of editing things all at once, like, doing sound mixing in the middle of an edit or adding music or this or that. And I know a lot of editors will use like temp sound effects or temp mixes and stuff like that. Not me. I was trying to do finishing stuff while I was in the process of editing. Whereas on this film, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the rough cut first, and then I'm going to do the sound, and then I'm going to do the sound effects, and then I'm going to do this and that, and kind of took it a more step-by-step process. I'm sure everybody's going to find this super shocking, but that worked incredibly well. In fact, it probably saved me a lot of time. Aside from the music, I also did all of the post-production myself. I'm sure I could have found an editor or a sound mixer or someone to help me, but I wanted to do this myself. I had an old composer friend of mine who scored all of my previous 48-hour film projects. He did the music on this one. I gave him themes from Arrival and Interstellar, and I said, do something like that. I loved what he created, and I think it really added a lot to the film. It's funny because I had envisioned something a little bit different from the score initially. I thought I would need different music for each scene, but going back to even the editing like I was talking about, I'm starting to admire simplicity more than anything. So I stopped and thought to myself, this is really just one big scene if you think about it. Like there's probably, I think, 5 total scenes in the entire movie, but it's really one sequence altogether. I did waste a lot of time with that thought process, but I ended up making it work. The toughest part was actually the visual effects. The cut that I turned into 48 Hour was not the same cut that I uploaded to YouTube. There were a lot less visual and sound effects during all the sci-fi parts of the film because I just simply ran out of time. However, in terms of visual effects and sound effects, I just stuck to stuff that I knew I could do easily and sound effects that I either had in my library or I could get super fast, cheap, or free. For the visual effects, I just did a lot of masking. I'm not entirely pleased with how the glow turned out on the device, but that's more of a resource and time problem more than anything. I basically said this is good enough to get the point across and I'm moving on. The light at the beginning of the film is just one of my filmmaking lights that I had Tyler turned on, and then I added a red glow in post with masking. As I mentioned before, the glow on the device was just masking, and then the TV was also some masking with some VHS effects I bought from Film Riot or Rampant a few years back. Overall, I think it turned out pretty great. I think this is definitely the best looking film that I've ever made. I think it's one of the best films from a production standpoint that I ever ran. I don't know if it's the best story I've ever told, but it resonates with me and I still love it. I'm definitely proud as hell with what I accomplished here. Anyway, let's jump over to the premiere and then give some final thoughts. All right, we are here at the Davis Theater and we are about to have our world premiere screening. Excited, I'm nervous, but we're gonna check it out, see how it goes. They're gonna do the screening. There's like 12 different films that are gonna be a part of this group. We're in group A today, and then we're gonna do a Q&A afterwards. We'll do some footage on that, but yeah, should be a lot of fun. So we'll check in here soon.
There's one scene in the film, it's sort of like a long scene when the two brothers
Yes.
are talking. I mean, was that always the idea to not have any cuts in there? Because it's probably 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, so I actually did some coverage and none of it worked, so I kind of had to just make it work. But I like longer takes. Like, I like letting the actors, which Tyler Mills over there, my lead actor, did a fantastic job. But I just like letting the actors kind of play and do their thing. We really worked on the timing as best as we could under the circumstances, but I really like, holding on shots as long as I can.
Yeah. I thought the story was great. You have the relationship certainly between the two brothers and the relationship with the mother that's passed, and all of that kind of comes through really quickly in this film. But I also really like the aesthetic. So everything from the old television set.
Thank you.
Reminded me of an old set
That was actually my mom's TV.
See that? Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I guess talk to me a little bit about how you decided to use, I guess, what you had to film that in the garage and turn it into this guy's laboratory that he was trying to.
Yeah, absolutely. So something I've had a lot of trouble with making films in the past is thinking like I need to do everything myself. Like I'm not very good at world building. So like the Dungeons and Dragons movie that came up, like you guys are fantastic. Just know that, like being able to do it, like I can't do that. So being able to think of things like that is just not my strength. So I had people involved who can do those things. So I'm like, hey, I want this opening shot to look like the opening shot of the Joker in The Dark Knight. Just make it look crazy, like make this guy look crazy. And my team just ran with it. So I can't take all the credit for that. Like I had the vision for it, like of what I wanted, but my team executed it beautifully.
Yeah, well, great job. Wonderful film, Afterimage. So let's give it up for them one more time.
Thank you. It's been a few months since I've had that experience, and it's given me a lot of time to reflect, and I have a few takeaways that I wanted to leave you with. One, I made this film for as cheap as possible. In previous videos, I shared that the cost was around $600 before shooting. I believe the total was right about $630. $150 of that was the fee to participate in 48 Hour. I bought one of the tickets for my crew for that screening that you just witnessed. Food for the cast and crew for shooting was about $100, I believe. And then I spent about $100 on equipment rentals, a few miscellaneous items. Everyone on the cast and crew volunteered their time, which I greatly appreciate. You know, I really only asked for about a day of people's time. Some people were there for about a day and a half if they were there Friday night. After Saturday, I pretty much said, you guys are free to go. You don't have to do anything. So, you know, that really helped to keep things manageable for everybody involved. With that in mind, I really wanted to drive home another point I mentioned at the beginning of this video about working at your own pace. This channel has primarily been about shooting and releasing feature films. I get asked constantly when I'm going to make my next feature. And the answer to that question is when the time is right. I don't have the ability to throw a bunch of money at a project right now. Life is getting tougher by the day in terms of finances. You know, I have a family to provide for now. I can't take the risks like I did when I was making cashing out. And I simply just don't have the time like I used to. Like, I'm currently filming this early in the morning when my family is sleeping so I can get it done. And it's actually being filmed 2 weeks after the last video that I said I was shooting in December. So this is coming out even later than I thought it would. My career takes up a huge portion of my life. I just had a child, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video. Situations like the one with my mom that ended up inspiring this film have also inspired me to be more proactive about spending time with loved ones, just because life is precious and, you know, I don't want to spend my entire life working. So needless to say, the plate is already full. I also had a heart attack 2 years ago. I spread myself too thin, and I don't want to put myself in an unsustainable lifestyle anymore. But there's a huge but here. Creating is obviously still important to me. So I've chosen to fit that into my life where I can. It's funny because I watch another YouTuber, D for Darius Britt, who is somebody who I've come to admire over the last 10 years or so. Like, I've been watching his videos for a very long time, and he actually just made a video about the problem with making 48-hour films. A lot of his points I agree on, but a lot of them I also disagree on. The main driving point was it doesn't give you enough time. Like, you need to be practicing constantly and not just making one film a year. And here I am saying that I would be happy just making one film a year. I think he's speaking to a lot of younger filmmakers who probably have a lot more time than people like me. So 48 hours perfect for me because it keeps me creating. And I'm always trying to push myself too. He made a point about how it's difficult to kind of, you know, test things out and raise the bar and all that. And I feel like I've done a pretty good job of that over the years. Like, if you see the progression of my films from 2012 when I started all the way to now, you'll notice that there's definitely a pretty significant change as far as, you know, my style, my storytelling, etc. But I understand the points he's trying to drive home because it is good to be continuously making things. I don't know, maybe I'll do what he does where he's just making films by himself. That's a really great technique. Like, trying to get people together and do this overcomplicated thing can get really difficult. So if you shoot a film by yourself, then that obviously saves a lot of time. Or if you can just do the majority of the work yourself and just get an actor friend or something to star in it, you know, that's obviously very helpful too. I don't know, maybe I'll try that in the future, but minimally I will make my one film a year and continue doing that. Like I said, doing 48-hour worked out really well for me. It didn't take up a lot of time. I only had to spend a weekend doing it, minus doing some prep work, which was still pretty minimal. And now I have another film, which I didn't have 5 years ago. That's a massive win to me, and honestly, it's a lot more than a lot of people do. It's the same thing with my videos. I work at my own pace. I release when I can. And I think most of the people who watch my videos just appreciate that I'm making them at all. I'm giving a platform to other filmmakers for them to promote themselves and talk about their projects. And while my videos don't get the most views, they get a lot more views than a lot of other interview platforms. That's all to say, I think that you need to be realistic with yourself and what you can accomplish. I know way too many people in my life who have that kind of all or nothing mentality, and they honestly just end up doing nothing. To be honest, I don't think I'm very special. I'm just willing to do a lot of small tasks over a long period of time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this series. Check out my new film, Afterimage, on YouTube, which I will link somewhere on screen here. I appreciate you all being patient with me. I'm very much looking forward to putting out more videos and interviews here in the near future. See you next time.